Hey guys, Furum here, and today I'm going to be testing the improved Sinar 1 in multiplayer in Asphalt 9 at 5 stars. I finally bought the last blueprint I needed for this car in the Legend store just a couple days ago, and I figured, hey, I'll do some rush season with this car and see what happens. So I've got all upgrades and import parts applied except for epics, which, well, I was using my trade coins to buy blueprints and not epics, so yeah, that's why there's none on there. But in this video, you will find 7 sequential races in the Sinar 1 in Rush Season. The first 7 that I played, actually. So this race that you're seeing right now is the first time that I ever drove this car at 5 stars. If you guys saw my video about the Porsche update, you'll know that this car was buffed along with the 4GT and then the nerf on the Corvette GS. I did a video about the 4GT after the buff, so now I'm making a video about this car after the buff, and everything about it, all of its stats were improved, except for acceleration, which is still, I would consider to be probably its weakest point. Its handling is slightly improved, although it's still not amazing either. However, its speed is quite good for B-Class. It goes 238 or 7 or somewhere around there miles per hour at max, which is very good for Class B. And its nitro efficiency now goes up to 85 at max. Where I am now, it's at 83 point something, but that still is extremely good, as you will be able to see throughout the video. And overall, it is a pretty stable car. It can feel a bit stiff at times, but that is something that you probably will get used to if you drive it a good amount. And that's what happened to me after driving it a bit here. You just have to be careful that around turns, if you're drifting a lot especially, you will lose a bit more speed, and that's where cars like the Corvette can probably catch up to you. So in that first race there, we beat a Huracan after a pretty close battle. In this one, we've got a Corvette and a Huracan and some other cars on Rome, which will be a real test of how this car can do on a more twisty track. Now, one thing to note is that, at least from my experience driving this car, it doesn't feel quite as stiff as, say, the F12 TDF or something like that. It did kind of at 4 stars, but once you 5-star this car, it does get to feel a little bit better at least. One good thing about it is because of this really good nitro efficiency, you can stay in your top speed a very long time on any part that has a long straightaway. And even on sections like this, you can actually turn okay. You can't make it all the way around like you can in the Corvette. I'm just saying it's a lot better than it is at lower stars, and if you're disappointed with this car and you have it at lower stars, I'd say try to start up by buying the blueprints in the Legend store. It's definitely a pretty high-end B-Class car now. Not a king, but pretty close to the top. And at 5 stars, especially after the Porsche update, it's quite a bit better than it was before. We're now moving on to a race on US Midwest, which actually we're facing another Sin R1N, a 5-star one, about 100 rank lower than us, so probably without a few import parts or something like that. So, the Grand Prix for the Porsche 911 GT2 RS Club Sport has ended, and I was in Tier 1. I think I've said that in a couple of previous videos, but I finished at position 6. Now in Tier 1, the top 10 people get the car, so that was fine. And while it would have been nice to get into the top 5 to get more tokens, or even top 3 for the decals, just the kind of people that I was playing against, I don't know if that would have been possible without starring up my car more, because my car is only at 3 stars. And one reason that I actually am okay with coming in 6th, and actually somewhat happy about it actually, is that, well, the top 5, they give you, wow, that was almost a wreck there, surprised it wasn't, but in the top 5 they give you an epic import part for that Porsche 911 GT2 RS. Since I'm planning to stay at 3 stars with it, those aren't really going to come in handy for me, but from 6 to 10 positions they give you a epic for the Targa, which is actually the last one I need to fully gold that car. So it turned out very nicely in a way, actually. Now this would have been nice while the Career GT event was still going. Well, I don't think a golden Targa would have allowed me to win that car. It would have allowed me to at least get a few more blueprints. Oh well, in this race we're facing a VLF, a Corvette, and a Porsche 918 on a US Midwest track that isn't really one of my favorites. Just a couple days ago, I made a video about the upcoming Lamborghini season update to Asphalt 9. Check that out if you haven't seen it yet, but a lot of people asked me in the comments, when do I think it will be coming out? Well, the past few Asphalt 9 updates have come out on Wednesdays, so I'd say it's pretty safe to assume that perhaps this Wednesday we might be seeing that update. That is speculation though. And after it comes out for Windows, I will make a video showing the max stats of the cars. I do not expect expect that any of them will be new kings necessarily, but I think that 3 of the 4, so not counting the Veneno, will be quite high in their classes. The Veneno, I'm expecting to be rather low S-class unless it improves a lot from stock to max pro, because its stock stats are not very impressive. Like, they're quite a bit like the FXXK, which obviously will still make a good car and probably will be decent for multiplayer as well. It just won't be very high in its class. The CN, though, I really think that it's going to be a very powerful multiplayer car. We already know that the Huracan will be a Legend Pass car, but it's also quite likely that the Veneno will be as well. The SC18 is rumored to be a Grand Prix car, and the CN is probably going to be a special event car. The best one in the update, and presumably it'll require a bunch of Lamborghinis that are already in the game, presumably at gold or very close to it. Now, I have the Huracan and the Aventador SV at Golden Max. My Asterion and Centenario are fully starred up, but not completely maxed, and then my Aventador J is at 4-star and my Terzo is at 3-star, and yeah, it just kind of goes down from there. So I'm not especially looking forward to this special event, if indeed those cars will be used in it, which, given past special events, like with the Carrera GT, it had all of the previous Porsches. Like, we can probably assume this one's going to have a bunch of Lamborghinis, since there are a bunch of them in the game. And I suspect that most special events going forward will probably be along the same lines as the Carrera GT special event, which does not bode well for people who do not have a lot of epic import parts. Now, I do not suspect that cars like the Terzo will require you to have epics, because like most people don't even have that car maxed, much less fully golden, so you can probably get a little bit of a breather on that, but for most of the other Lamborghinis, I would assume that they would require you to have the car fully golden in order to get all the blueprints with that one. Which is kind of a troubling thought for future special events, because those epic import parts that you can get in the shop are not cheap. They range from 6,000 to 10,000 trade coins, depending on which variety you get. And I've only ever had at most like 60,000 trade coins at once, and that's gone down to 40 to 50,000. So it's not impossible to get a lot of them. It's just you will have to save up a lot, and I doubt we'll be able to save up enough of those to actually be able to buy all the epic import parts of cars that we will need to buy in order to fully complete these special events. So that is one thing that worries me there. Even if people already have those cars maxed otherwise, those epics might be a problem in some cases. And that is why, like, it's really good to do the car hunts and car hunt riots to fully max out, to fully gold those cars that you might really not think it's completely useful for, but in the long run, it definitely will be. So we're coming up near the end of Osaka with a Huracan on our tail, I believe. Just like in the previous race with Osaka, we had a bit of a battle with the Huracan near the beginning, and here we come in first place, with him not too far behind us. There was actually another Huracan in this race, as well as a couple of VLFs. Surprisingly, for a track like Osaka, the Corvette did not do especially great. So for this final race, we're facing a VLF, an F12 TDF, a Huracan, and an Aventador SV on Rome, another track that probably will be a good test for this car. And now it is time for me to give my general review of it. It is not a perfect car by any means. Its acceleration and handling leave quite a bit to be desired, but its top speed is very good for Class B, and its nitro efficiency is definitely up there with the best of them in this game. So it got better by, I think, 10 points before versus after the update, 75 to 85 at max. So if you have not driven this car since then, it would definitely be a good idea to try it out. You might be a bit surprised, and if you haven't been buying trade coins for it in the shop, you might want to do that, because it's definitely going to be a viable contender in B class, and probably events as well at this point. Not a king, again, but pretty high up there. Not as good as the Huracan, though. So if you have that car max, this one might not be of all that much use to you. But I hope I've shown in these races that it's a viable multiplayer car, at least in Rush Season, and I was in Platinum League in all these races, so I could face some A-class cars. Thank you all for watching. Please like the video if you have enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt and other games content. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!